Hello, my name's Louise Devenish. I'm a percussionist, artist, researcher, and director of the Sound Collectors Lab, which is a project where I collaborate with other musicians, composers, sound designers, visual artists, and scientists to develop new music.
I'm Philippa Allan from Real Arts in Berlin, and I am an artist manager and I suppose connector of people and projects together around the world, and especially focusing between Europe and Australia. Yeah.
Philippa, if I can stay on you just for one question. It's not your first Classical Next. You've been a few times. Can I ask you why you enjoy coming, or why it is that you come in the first place, and what benefit Classical Next brings you?
There's a number of reasons why I come. I think Classical Next is one of the conferences which is searching and in a sort of as a team effort in the industry to see which direction we're taking music, classical music, and to look out of our comfort zone, right and left at developments happening around the world. I also come to reconnect with the Australians because I'm based in Berlin but from Australia and working with Australia. But also the panel discussion, and I particularly like the pitch sessions. It's very interesting to have these little cells of information about projects and to get a nice overview of some of the things coming up in the scene.
Louise, you are also a fellow. How's it going? How are you enjoying it?
Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, this is my first time at Classical Next, and I'd come because I'd heard that it was a really exciting place to meet other artists, to learn about how other musicians and presenters are creating music and putting on music in different places. So I'm really delighted to be part of the Fellows program, which for me includes support from the Australian Music Centre. And it's been an excellent experience, actually, the Fellows program for a first timer at Classical Next. Not only here on the ground, where I've had the opportunity to speak with mentors like Philippa, but other people from the Australian Music Centre and other fellow mentors, but also in the preparation, in the lead up to coming to Classical Next and having that support in the preparation for the event. I really appreciated it, particularly because I was here giving a project pitch for a project that I've developed with some other artists named Alluvial Gold. And it's the first time I've ever done anything like a project pitch, so a new experience, and being part of the Fellows program has really helped support me to be able to do that, I hope, effectively.
Was there something specific that you were looking to gain from doing the fellowship experience?
Yes, I suppose I applied for the fellowship program because I was really interested to learn from people who have regularly attended Classical Next, to find out what the environment is like, what the tone is like, and how to make the most of being here.
How is it being able to give back your experience to, someone who's going through experiences for the first time? How has it been being a mentor as part of the program?
I think it's interesting for me because it helps me to reflect on the past experiences and also prepare for the conference each year myself. And because I remember how daunting it can be when you see the list of delegates coming and the topics that are around and how to plan to make the best use of that for one's own practice. I think it's just an interesting for the mentor to speak to the mentee about all of these types of plans. And I mean, it's been really exciting for me to hear much more about Louise's project, to be honest, which is excellent. So.
Any takeaways, big learning lessons from the last couple of days, or something that you're excited to bring home with you?
So one of the big takeaways or hot tips, I suppose, that I might offer to future fellows and future attendees of Classical Next is to really think about how you talk about what you do, how you introduce yourself, and can you introduce your artistic practice, your music, and your project in 2 sentences or in 5 sentences, and have that ready to go. So I feel like that's something that I've kind of refined over the first few days of Classical Next. I wasn't expecting to be introducing myself to quite as many people as I have. So that would be my number one tip for any future attendees, is to, think about how you talk about what you do. Yeah.
I'm wondering if you could just give us some insights, both of you, to what's happening in Australia, what you're seeing in terms of trends for the classical music industry, what's happening, and how it maybe compares to what you're seeing going on in other parts of the world.
So, as far as trends in new classical music in Australia at the moment, there are two themes that I'm really noticing are happening with small to medium organisations, but also with larger organisations as well. And they're connected to current global issues that everyone is experiencing, namely the climate crisis and social justice issues. So these two things I think are really influencing the way classical music is being created. So it might be conceptually informing works that are being developed or how festivals or series are being programmed, but it's also really influencing curatorial practices and making everyone think about who is able to participate in classical music in Australia, in what ways, why, and what can we do to increase inclusion and access to classical music, but also be making and programming classical music that is really relevant to what's happening in our cities, in our countries. And that's where the climate crisis is really coming to the fore, not just in what we're making, but how it's being made and put on as well.
I completely agree with Louise. I think there's an interesting thing for promoters and artists based elsewhere to understand about Australia is that there is less presenting money there. A lot of the artists have to present themselves and hire the hall, get their audiences and everything. And so I actually think there's a lot that countries like Australia have to offer this conversation about new audience building because of this proximity the performer has to their audience through this experience and getting the funding and everything. So I think a lot of these searching questions that we have about which way to go, I think we could possibly be inviting spokespeople from further away to comment on these things, also from Asia. But sometimes the bigger Central European countries, they have a much more developed structure which is harder to move away from or to change the shape of. And it could be interesting to hear from countries further afield who have other challenges, but through that have grown on that question. So, yeah.
Something for both of you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
pleasure.
Thank you.